Paltrocast.
Nothing's off limits.
I hate the way Waddy said we got it. Can you get rid of that?
For you, I will, because I've listened to dozens of records you played on, maybe hundreds. But anyway, it's a pleasure to be speaking with the immediate family and Denny. Love all of your work. I mean that because I love the Wrecking Crew documentary, all the records that you gentlemen have played on. I'm going to throw the first question here at Denny. Now, most filmmakers, when they're doing the documentary, the hardest part is finding the story. In your case, you had to find the story, get everyone's schedule together, get all these A-listers to film, and clear all the music. What was the hardest part of making this doc?
Ooh, you're scaring the shit out of me now.
Come on, Dan, go.
Getting
Yeah,
good
no,
prescriptions.
Yeah. I think, finding the story, it all came together because getting these guys, we knew they were together.
Right.
So we always had a contained situation. The easiest thing, which blows my mind, should have been the hardest, was actually getting these stars together. Usually you go, okay, call this guy, and you got to kind of get past the gatekeeper, and the gatekeeper has one job to keep you away.
Right.
And there were no gatekeepers. Every one of these guys made a call. And, all of a sudden we got Linda, all of a sudden we got David, we got Keith Richards, we got all these people, and it was just mind-boggling how quickly the stars said yes, because they love these guys. They're not just artists. They were the sisters and brothers of these guys. So that was actually the easiest thing. And once you start getting it in the can, it's showing itself. And then music licensing, you just got to pray and hope at the end that the labels and publishers will come through, and they did.
Is there a lot of cutting room footage? Because I can't imagine how many hours you filmed.
Yes and no. What's interesting is there would have been a lot more. The only reason there wasn't a lot more was because of COVID, because we started most of it before COVID, got up to that March, and we hadn't got the guys in the can. And there were other artists that we hadn't touched yet. And there were, at one time I wanted it to call immediate family and friends, and to start doing some of the other guys. We did do Keltner, and we did do a few others that just didn't make it in the, we didn't get it in the movie because the story went different way because of COVID. So that's why it was like, okay, it's about these 5 guys. We're not going off. And, but there is some great footage of each one of them, of outtakes. And so That's what I'm sharing now. That's what we're putting together for the DVD.
Now, one thing I was trying to figure out, but one thing that everybody has in common, musically speaking, besides all the great credits, is some of you have played with Spinal Tap, or have all of you played with Spinal Tap? Lee, is there a Spinal Tap connection?
The closest I got was Russ, we did that thing called Rock and Roll Nightmare. That was a precursor to Spinal Tap that never got finished. And that was with the guys in Rob, but we did some tracks for that, but it never got finished because Spinal Tap evolved from that. And but Russ was an integral part of Spinal Tap. So
yes, he was. Russ, I mean, you're not Ronnie Pudding, but you did play in Spinal Tap.
So I got to tell you a quick story about Ronnie Pudding. We're on tour in Australia, and Danny decides to use Ronnie Pudding as his hotel alias. And after a couple of days of the front desk calling, Mr. Pudding, would you like your room changed, Mr. Pudding? What would you like for lunch, Mr. Pudding? It was Mr. Pudding, Mr. Pudding, Mr. Pudding. It drove him so crazy that he called down and had it changed back to his real name.
Wow. Throwing this at Steve here. Do you have any retired hotel room names that you can share?
Retired hotel. I have the only one I ever used when I was with an artist who I won't name, who didn't want our names, and it was Felix the Cat. That was my name for that tour.
That's a good one.
I loved when we used to do names. One of my favorites. I always loved names like Basil Rathbone. So the toilets in England are Armitage Shanks, and that was my road name for a long time. I was Armitage Shanks.
Lee, you just taught me something because there's a Green Day song called Armitage Shanks, and I never knew what that meant until just now.
Yeah, it's like Toto, in Japan, as all the toilets say Toto on them.
Toto, a band which I've seen you play live in. So
Yeah.
I've been ignoring Waddy this whole time. Waddy, is there resentment because I've been ignoring you and asking about Spinal Tap?
I played on a Spinal Tap record.
Which one? The Wind one?
Stinking Up the Great Outdoors, it was called. It's fantastic. And we traded. I gave Chris one of my picks, and he gave me a Nigel Tufnell pick. So
That's
it was
great.
a wonderful day. I used to use the name on the road, Kneel Down. It was pretty good.
Yeah. Bend over.
And over
All those.
Did you spell Kneel down with the K or with the N?
with an N.
Oh, okay. Pretty clever there. Now, Danny, I'm leaving you out. Danny, did you have good road aliases? Because, hey, the lineage is with you, of course.
Yeah, no, I just changed my name just to change my name. No, absolutely not. I would love to have Bend Over. That's why when I go on the road with Lee, that's my name. That's what he calls me.
That's what I call it.
That's your
That's
role.
why I assume that's what you meant, right? That's my name.
Well, Lee, I admire the changes in the backgrounds right there. Right now, you have Joe's Pizza up. I assume that's the original location in New York City.
Yep, that's where Waddy and I go every time we get to town.
It's actually the 14th Street one. Not
Yeah, this is the
not
14th Street.
Okay, so is that in your rider when you play a gig at the Garden? Do you say 2 pies from Joe's Pizza?
We go right there. No rider.
no-
Just
yeah.
right there. Just there's nothing like standing there eating.
Yeah.
It's the best.
Standing over the counter. Now, Steve, do you have a favorite New York pizza spot? Have they offended you?
Well, there's a lot of them, but Joe's, of course, is what I do when we go to New York is I go right to Gray's Papayas hot dog.
Great papaya, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Charlie's Corner, Waddy turned me onto that
Oh.
years ago, and that was our go-to place at 58th and Lexington.
That's-
And one time we show up and it's gone. I think the landlord had priced them out at that location, and they moved back to Queens or wherever they were from, Long Island or something.
I think they lost all their money at the racetrack, really. Actually.
Probably.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Here on Long Island, we have another racetrack or two. So, what can we do? We make the world a not so great place on Long Island. But Russ, I've left you out of the pizza discussion. Is Joe's your spot when you're in New York as well? Or do you need to from the rest of the band?
No. I'm fine with all the former mentioned names. They're all good.
Yeah. If you want to know where the good food is, you ask a touring musician. And Denny, what do you play, by the way? I'm curious about this because we think of you as the director and the Wrecking Crew lineage and all that. But do you play?
Nope.
Nope.
I'm not sure where this interview is actually going, so I have to be careful what I say. I never practiced. I had other things to do, and I thought music, was not one of them, I guess. So I suck. What can I say?
And very well, too.
Thank you.
All right.
And there was Leland right there for me.
Let's clean this up a little.
Folks, Leland's here. Tip Leland, please. He's going to be here for another 30 minutes.
Well, in my last question, working as a round table right here, this is a new movie to us, the general public. To you, Denny, you worked on it for years. These gentlemen were filming for it on and off for a long while. Denny, are we allowed to know what's coming next from you, the filmmaker?
Yeah, I'd love to. I'm doing Wolfman Jack, which is, So I started that a few months ago, and I've interviewed Johnny Rivers and
Burt Sugarman?
not yet. He's
Not
on my
yet.
list.
Bill Henry.
Richard Dreyfuss and a few others. But it's kind of my easy for me to say. It's my third one. How's that? It's my third one with music.
I saw a bit of a trailer that he's putting a little sizzle thing, and it's really great. It's really, really good.
It's gonna be fun. you know, and it's only one guy I got to deal with, and he's dead. What can I say? I'm not saying anything about the other guys or the other musicians I just worked with. I'm just saying the guy's gone. I
Well,
love him just as much.
Sugarman has all the footage, so that's your one-stop shop clearing kind of thing. And I'll put your team in touch with him if need be. But looking forward to that. Now, Lee, besides immediate family, what do you have to plug? Where should we be looking for you?
Well, I've got a book called Everybody Loves Me that you can go to my website, and it's lelandskalarsbeard.com. And I've got my book and T-shirts, and that's one of my pieces of artwork behind me on there that have like a limited edition signed museum quality prints. And then I sell pieces of my beard for the DNA.
I love that. Russ, are we allowed to know what's coming from you besides the immediate family?
Not a whole lot. The immediate family is going on tour in February. And we're doing the Rock Legends cruise with Sammy Hagar as the headliner. We're doing some dates in Northern California. We're playing the Libero Theater again. We're doing some dates in South Florida after the cruise. So looking forward to that.
Got it. Japan, hopefully again, because I remember when I interviewed Danny a few years ago, they sent me the Japanese version of the album and still on a major label over there, the immediate family.
We're hoping so.
Yeah.
We're hoping so. Yeah.
Steve, what about you? Are we allowed to know what you're working on next?
I have I was in David Crosby's last band, and then he passed away before we could go on tour. So we put together a show with all people who have a connection, who played in that band or with CSN, and we're going on tour later in the summer with playing sort of the catalog, but all with people who were at different times with different versions of Crosby, Stills, or Crosby, Stills and Nash, so on and so forth.
So Irving approves of that one, hopefully.
Irving has nothing to do with that one.
Except he'll make all the publishing money.
The legacy. And
Exactly.
Waddy, last word goes to you. We're seeing you in arenas and stadiums with Stevie when she plays with Billy Joel, and without Billy Joel, it's still arenas and stadiums. Anything else that we should be looking for?
Well, we're finishing up the Billy Stevie tour between now and March, and we're just looking for February 16th when our new immediate family record comes out, and going to do everything we can to make sure everybody hears it. We're very excited about it. I think you're going to love it.
So you have this wonderful film, thanks to Denny and team. There's the immediate family touring, the cruise, the record. You all have 8 jobs otherwise. There's Lee's book. There's the next Spinal Tap movie, hopefully, that Ronnie Pudding is in. And the next time I speak with Danny, I'm going to bug him for Van Halen stories. But the bottom line is thank you all for your time and your decades of great art, and really looking forward to what's to come from everyone.
What about your
Thanks.
favorite pizza out there in the island?
My favorite food out on the island?
Pizza.
I have the lowest common denominator pizza. I don't taste the difference in the pizza. It's the sushi I can taste the difference in. Does that make sense?
So you get sushi pizza?
Sushi pizza.
I think I've had that in Japan. Too much, you know.
All right.
Paltrocast. Hey, Steve Trevino here, and you are watching the Paltrocast. Paltrocast.
Thank you both for taking the time to speak with me today. Now, The Portrait is the new movie. It's new to us. Now, I'll first throw this to Natalia. When did you film The Portrait? I couldn't figure out when it was made just by looking at it.
2021.
2021. Okay. Now, I rudely
Do you remember that time? That was like 3 lifetimes ago.
I know. Yeah,
Good
November.
Cabernet that year. But I rudely, Natalia, I didn't say, how are you? I didn't ask how you were doing today. Are you fine?
I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm great. And I'm going to ask you one more questions before I throw it to Ryan. And that's, what did you have visually to act against in terms of the portrait? Meaning, was the portrait itself painted throughout the movie, or at the beginning of the movie, or after the movie?
No, the portrait was painted before the movie, Simon, our director, went, I mean, I wanted to find the list, but I don't think I'm gonna find it in time. Maybe I will, but I'll look up real fast. But he went around trying to find an artist, he didn't want to just, do a portrait that was visual effects or whatever. And he found, I mean, I've met her a couple of times. So has Ryan, Fipsy. I can't pronounce her last name. I think it's Saylern, right?
Learn, yeah.
Yeah. Saylern. She's a brilliant painter. And we got to meet her a couple of times. So he put her to the task and she read the script and she loved it. And she painted not just the portrait, but a lot of the paintings that you see in the house that are terrifying Sophia. She did all of those and it's magnificent work. I mean, that portrait, Ryan has it in his house. I'm going to borrow it this next year. Just kidding. But it's amazing. I would go up to the attic and stare at that portrait because it had just it just looked through you. That's when there's a painter behind, there's someone that knows more than just putting paint to canvas. It was very powerful what Fipsy did.
Wow. Well, Ryan, that was actually the thing I was going to ask. Did you get to keep the portrait? Because some actors, that they're an actor looking at their house, and others have no memorabilia, nothing from any production they worked on. So you do have the painting. That's correct?
I do, and I also pledge allegiance to that first line of actors. I have very little of memorabilia outside of the memories that one collects, but even those are getting garbled as I get older.
As you get more classic, more vintage, not older.
There you go.
Refined.
But that painting, as Natalia said, it had a Mona Lisa kind of esque quality to it in the same way that the Mona Lisa was sort of said to follow you with her eyes. This one, like Natalia said, drew you into its world. And it really was rather eerie to look at. So to see it come to fruition in the movie in just as powerful a way was kind of incredible. Yeah, and Fipsy did such a great job, clearly understood the darkness and the ominousness of the movie, and it was obviously a huge part. It was its own character, so it was important that it sung.
Now, last question about the portrait painting itself. Does it go by the door, so it's the first thing that somebody sees in your home? Does it get hidden in a guest bedroom? Does it go in the attic? Where does it go?
Well, I'm currently in the process of moving, so right now it's figuring out a place to how and when to kind of move it type thing. But yeah, it's been moved from room to room.
Now I know. Now, Natalia, something that you and Ryan both have in common is you both had a lot of success outside the U.S. before you moved to the U.S. in film and television projects. So in other words, you were huge here, then you come there, and then you also find success, which is an admirable thing. What was your entry point to the portrait? Did you know one of the producers, or were you friends with somebody from the cast?
Well, firstly, I'm so grateful you said that because I came to the United States with like 3 guest stars on my belt from Mexico, barely. So, I mean,
that's 3 more than me.
Oh, you're so sweet. Yeah. No, I got to the US to start my career pretty raw and without nothing to prove. But yeah, it's part of, I got married and I loved living in this country. So it was what it was. What was the question again? Sorry.
Who or what was your gateway into this?
Yes,
film?
no, I didn't know anyone. One of the producers knew my agent, and I think also knew Ryan's agent. So they were looking for actors. So they were going to these agencies. They went to my agency and asked, "Do you have a Latina actress that could play this part?" And so I got the script and the offer from my agency saying David explains it. It's so sweet. David Griffith, the writer, says that he saw my prior work and thought, yeah, she could be Sophia, but that it was an interview that he saw of mine where I got really serious about dealing with sort of darkness and depression in our lives and facing our fears. And that's what made him and Simon say, okay, offer it to her and let's see if she wants to do it.
And here you are. Now, Ryan, what was your gateway into this project?
It was pitched to me as a project that I probably wouldn't be interested in because my character didn't utter a word. And I said, are you effing kidding me? Like, that's exactly why I want to do it. It's actually far closer to who I am as a person anyway. I'm a pretty quiet guy. So it was, I really do appreciate those movies where the audience is left to do a lot more of the thinking and kind of go along this journey with Sophia. And it was the most intriguing thing to me because you're colliding two kind of traumas, the brain trauma with this generational trauma, and then you're pitting them both on my character's wife and asking her to sort of come up with all the solutions. And it's just too much for any one person, as you kind of see as the movie progresses. It just the generational trauma takes on a life of its own and starts to kind of affect the traumatic brain injury in such a way where you're starting to wonder who's who. It was a unique spin on that psychological horror thriller that was so kind of prominent and incredible from the sort of the 70s. And Simon, kind of our illustrious director, he kind of pays homage to a lot of those movies, both in his sort of shot making and in sort of choices of who he chose to collaborate with. Even like Alexander Wells, who did the original score for this. It was such a sort of a classic kind of a score, which Natalia's kind of iterated this before too, that in an independent movie you don't get the chance usually. It's something that is a score is something that is usually bought, but the fact that they kind of went out of their way to make sure that there was enough left in the budget, and again, everyone's working on this because not for the money, because we want to kind of follow our fearless leader to the ends of the earth. And we really did on this particular one. It was to the ends of the earth.
Well, one stupid question for both of you, and then I'll let you go. And it's about one of your co-stars, Mark Paul Gosselaar. Mark Paul, I grew up watching him. Saved by the Bell was this show that was on 7 days a week, 5 channels all the time. And it's been incredible to see the dramatic depth that he's shown in film and television projects the last 15 or so years, that he really shed any level of child actor role stuff that he had. So I'm curious, selfishly, Natalia first, what awareness did you have of Saved by the Bell growing up in Mexico?
I knew Saved by the Bell. I've never been driven in. Pop has never been a thing for me. What everyone's watching at the time is usually what I'm not. I remember the first time Britney Spears came out and going to Reese's and being like, "Why do all these girls know this dance and I don't know it? In this song, what's going on?" Because I was listening to Edith Piaf crying in my living room, pretending to be some dramatic diva or something.
Right.
So I knew Saved by the Bell from my younger sister. She loved him. She loved Mark Paul. So I would catch glimpses here and there, but I didn't really, to be honest with you, watched it. But what you said is very important, and I want to put emphasis on that. Mark is such a wonderful person and clearly such a talented actor. I mean, Saved by the Bell, you can, say, oh, it's just a kid show. He was incredible in that. In the few things I watched, and I watched it more after he got cast in our film. And then, watching him come in and play the most bizarre of roles I've ever read on a page, because his character was so weird. That scene with me where he presents the Jesus tattoo and says, "Let him in," and all that. That was, I called David when I read the script for like the 10th time and told him, I still cannot see how you're going to make this scene work. It's just so bizarre to me. And it was the hardest scene for me to grasp Sophia in, because it was so out there and creepy. And he did such a spectacular job. It's so underscored the uncomfortability between them both. And he was just so wonderful as a person and as an actor. And I'm so, as you said, so I get so excited when I see an actor that has been, it can happen to all of us, get sort of stuck in this media box, in this idea we should be, because it's what sells. It's so detrimental to the artist and to the art itself. And I'm so proud for him and so happy that he's getting these roles that really showcase his depth as an actor. So very grateful, very happy that he was part of it, and really proud to have acted with this international crush, because I can't tell you the amount of girlfriends of mine that when they saw the trailer were like, do you get to kiss Mark Paul? And I was like, not really. I tried to, but I don't get to all the way. And they were like, oh my God, that was my girl dream. And so it was also a lot of fun to see how that character of his still, lives in women that are 40-year-olds that, had this huge crush in their teenage years. I think that's wonderful.
Right. And quick question before I let you go, Ryan, same thing at you. Had you been aware of Saved by the Bell from your younger years?
Not so much. TV wasn't huge in Australia, but we had sort of, in my family, it wasn't huge. But you understand the weight that any actor that's done anything, but certainly something like a Saved by the Bell that has sort of been a real echo of the time. That you could be working with someone that has ego attached to it, but from it really comes from Natalia. She's number one on the call sheet. She's in every fucking frame of the movie. If she's turning up, knowing her lines, knowing everyone's name on set, it really sort of checks everyone at the door. But MPG was great, man. His portrayal of Brooks, there's delivery of lines like you wouldn't let a dog suffer like that. That it shows a real handle on the human capacity, and you're not sure. His level of how he played the mystery of Brooks was kind of genius too. It could have, in a lesser actor's hands, could have really just been a real blank kind of a character, but he really gave it a mystery.
Sure.
And as Einstein said, mystery is the greatest thing that we can experience. So good on you, MPG.
Top that intellectually. That was too good, Ryan. But bottom line is this: congrats to both of you on this project. Ryan, looking forward to the upcoming stuff that you produce in addition to the acting. Natalia, looking forward to Brian Buckley's music as well. Keep up the great work, both of you, and thank you for your time.
Appreciate you, Darren.
Paltrocast. Hey, yo, check 1, 2. This is Flavor Flav, and I don't disappear fast. Because right now, you are watching the Paltrocast. Paltrocast.